Mark your calendars because Cheekwood is throwing its very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. And guess what? You're invited. Enjoy 5 days packed full of fun for all ages, from free yoga and $5 gardening classes to live music, puppets, and even a Taylor Swift dance party. And when the sun goes down, catch the Princess Bride under the stars or a Shakespearean cocktail crawl. It's all happening at Cheekwood. Learn more at cheekwood.org. Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. It's been a tense week in our city with significant ICE operations impacting predominantly Latino neighborhoods across Davidson County. Joining me are executive producer Whitney Pasterek and Nashville Scene columnist and CityCast Nashville contributor Nicole Williams. It's Friday, May 9th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Nicole and Whitney, we have made it to Friday.
By the skin of our teeth.
It's been an intense week here in Music City.
Last weekend, Nashville experienced our largest ICE raid since the start of the second Trump administration. ICE worked with Tennessee Highway Patrol to conduct traffic stops. I'm using air quotes, if you can hear that, because they were targeted and it was truly racial profiling, in my opinion. This all took place in South Nashville. Between 40 and 100 people were detained.
And I do want to give a quick update. According to WSMV, they've officially put that number right now at 94 people have been detained by ICE and separated from their families.
And then in a statement from our mayor, he denied any MNPD involvement and said that they were seeking the names of those detained. So in response, Wednesday night, the Metro Council's Public Health and Safety Committee called a special meeting to hear the community's concerns about safety and address the possible involvement of MNPD.
I know Nicole and I were both watching at home, but Marie, you actually went. You were in the front row. Tell us how it felt.
The emotions, the raw emotions, the rage was palpable. Like you could just feel, I was getting very emotional just hearing what the public comment was. I mean, the thing is that it's ripping families apart. It's targeting, this neighborhood in South Nashville that we celebrate. That's what one person said, we celebrate diversity in Nashville all the time. And here we are targeting this area of Nolensville Pike, predominantly Hispanic. The fact that there were these traffic stops in the middle of the night. These people were coming home from work. I was just really honestly blown away by the bravery of the people that spoke. There was 30 minutes given for public comment. It was very emotional.
Aside from the public comment, the heads of several Metro departments were present to answer questions from council members. So you had the Director of Law, Wally Dietz. You had the Director of the Department of Emergency Communications, Stephen Martini. And Police Chief John Drake was not there. He sent in his stead his Deputy Chief, Chris Gilder. And that caused some anger among council members and community members that the police chief himself was not there to provide assurances that his department was not involved in this action.
Deputy Chief Gilder's explanation for why he was there is that he was the usual council liaison, and so he was just there filling the role he typically plays. But I will say that Metro Legal generally sends a representative to council. Wally Dietz does not regularly attend council. And so it did feel like in these extraordinary circumstances, it was strange to not have Chief Drake there. And it didn't just spark outrage. It sparked like a sideswipe from Councilmember Russ Bradford, who went so far as to somewhat hilariously call out allegations that Chief Drake has been having an affair on company time. So the gloves were off.
Yeah, they really were. This is not business as usual. This is not a time to act like everything is normal. This is a time for leaders of departments to show up and answer for their involvement or lack thereof and tell people what they're going to do moving forward.
Well, Marie, we might as well bring up then kind of what the biggest bombshell was.
Yes. So we all listened to a recording of a call from an officer from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the Nashville Department of Emergency Communications that took place on Thursday, May 1st. So that was 2 days before. This person called to request extra Nashville police patrols at the local Icefield office because of concerns of backlash by families.
We're worried that people might be upset that we are separating them from their families. And so can you please send some cops down to the ICE office to control the protesters?
Some council members argued that this should have prompted the dispatcher to basically send this up the food chain in accordance with an executive order from Mayor Freddie O'Connell that instructs all Metro employees of all Metro departments to inform their supervisors, who should then inform the mayor's office of new Americans if there's any contact with immigration enforcement officials, essentially to make sure that leadership is aware that these things are going on. But it was very clear from listening to the call that this dispatcher was neither aware of that executive order nor really aware of what ICE is. She asked, okay, you said the Culture and Immigration Office, and Inspector Sanders had to explain, no, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE.
It was a very shady call across the board, if you ask me. The inspector who called also said that, he had served in Metro at the North Precinct and then kind of started fishing around for names within the department. And I keep using this analogy that it's like somebody trying to talk their way past a guest list at a show. Like,
yes,
I'm friends with, the tour manager. What's his name?
It really just felt so amateur hour.
To your point, Nicole, what this dispatcher should have done is send that up the chain so that everyone was aware. The same way that if someone gets a tornado warning, they probably are going to let other people know. But that allegedly did not happen. According to a timeline sent out by Metro Legal, that dispatcher scheduled a notice for the on-duty dispatcher on Sunday morning to alert them of the request. So according to the timeline that we've been given by Metro, nobody in Metro knew about this until that notification popped up with MNPD on Sunday morning.
This really revealed a huge deficiency in training for 911 dispatchers. And Director Martini acknowledged this. He just straight up said, you're right, we didn't have a policy, we didn't have a procedure, we didn't train our folks on this. And now we know.
We have to acknowledge that we made an error in our newsletter that went out yesterday morning. We had written that MNPD knew about the ICE actions starting with that call on Thursday. Because to us, why would they not have?
Right.
This makes no sense to me. So we got that wrong. And I would like to state that the mayor's press secretary, Alex Apple, reached out to me yesterday morning via text to let me know that what we wrote was not accurate. A DEC dispatcher received a call about the possibility of extra patrols, but that did not reach MNPD until Sunday. So we apologize for misinterpreting the timeline, but I think that just further underscores this gap between the Department of Emergency Communications, 911, and the rest of Metro.
This is an evolving situation, as they say. The facts on the ground are not entirely known at this point. People are still asking questions. Director Dietz is trying to get information from the federal government, from the Tennessee Highway Patrol. We know what we know as of right now, and that is obviously subject to change.
There was a lot of discussion about trust in that room.
Yeah.
Do you believe what MNPD and Metro Legal and the Department of Emergency Communications shared at that meeting? Do you trust these people's information?
I think for me, it is not about trusting the people who are saying these things. Like, I don't trust MNPD for a number of reasons. But what I do believe is that people and organizations, departments act out of self-interest. And I do not see any reason to think that it would be in MNPD's self-interest to involve themselves in a federal immigration enforcement proceeding. They didn't have to. They weren't required to. it's a terrible look for them if they were involved. And so to me, just as an outsider looking in, I am not discounting the fact that this has shattered the community's trust in whatever trust was left in our institutions. But from a purely like cynical self-interest standpoint, I don't see what motivation MNPD would have to involve themselves in something that is basically a PR nightmare.
I just want to say that a volunteer, Ashley Warbington, the night of the raids, received a call at 1:30 a.m., went down there herself and saw MNPD present. So eyewitnesses are stating that they did see MNPD on Nolensville during those raids.
And there was an explanation for that there were other operations happening,
right.
But it's like, it's super confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And as Councilmember at Large Delicia Porterfield said, her grandmother always taught her to avoid anything that could give you the appearance or proximity to evil. And so the fact that MNPD was anywhere in the vicinity, whether or not they were actually involved, people are pissed off.
Yeah. It was extremely emotional and, like Nicole just said, in many ways very confusing. And I know we're always telling y'all, go watch the Metro Council meeting, but this is one that is worth tuning in for because we don't have time on our allegedly 20-minute podcast to get into all of the details. I want to celebrate Councilmember Erin Evans, who is the chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee, for calling this meeting. I also thought she managed it very well.
Extremely well.
I think she allowed the people who came for public comment to speak over their time without cutting their mics. I mean, across the board, regardless of what we knew about these council members' previous ideologies or viewpoints, every single person called out these actions as, in the words of Councilmember Bob Nash, who is a former MNPD officer himself, he called them deplorable. So I do think that there is, at the very least, a unified sense of purpose when it comes to protecting our neighbors, and that was very heartening.
Now, I will say, I believe all of this happened in Councilmember Courtney Johnston's council district.
Where's she?
Great question.
And my other question, Nicole, is there were a lot of questions and suggestions and demands brought to the table. When will we hear a response from MNPD, Metro Legal, and DEC?
Director Dietz has vowed essentially to share information with the public and the council as much as he can as soon as he receives the information. The promises from DEC and MNPD were not quite as encouraging. Chair Erin Evans has indicated that she intends to invite MNPD, DEC, and Metro Legal back to the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting on June 3rd to give a comprehensive update of what we know, where we are now, and what we're working on. And I have never known Chair Evans to be wishy-washy or not enforce a timeline that she has set.
If you're looking for ways to help in the wake of all this, we suggest you follow the Remix TN on Instagram. They're sharing a lot of resources and ways to get involved. They also have a mutual aid set up that you could donate to. Cowboy Up Nashville. Music City Rodeo, Nashville's first and only PRCA rodeo, is coming to Bridgestone Arena for 3 unforgettable nights featuring the world's top pro rodeo athletes and live music from Nashville legends. Reba on May 29th, Jelly Roll on May 30th, and Tim McGraw on May 31st. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Each night ticketed separately. For more information, visit MusicCityRodeo.com. If you haven't heard yet, Cheekwood is hosting their very first community celebration, June 3rd through June 7th. That's 5 days packed full of fun for all ages. During the day, you can come and enjoy free yoga with Small World Yoga. Explore a musical petting zoo brought to you by our friends at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. Catch performances by the Nashville Opera or the Nashville Puppet Truck. There will also be a friendship bracelet making station, animals from the Nashville Zoo. Oh, and how could I forget? $5 gardening classes for the whole family. Then, as the sun sets, grab dinner from one of the many food trucks and watch The Princess Bride under the stars. Or sip your way through a Shakespearean cocktail crawl, courtesy of the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. You can also catch an evening with Grammy Award winner Rodney Crowell, dance to music from Sonny Dada and his 12-piece band, or sing along to everyone's favorite Beatles songs with Forever Abbey Road. There's something for everyone of all ages, so come on by. Learn more at cheekwood.org.
There was also a normally scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, where they normally are, and a couple of things caught my eye. First of all, housing was a big topic, with Councilmember Joyce Stiles deferring a planned affordable housing development in her district because she says her constituents do not want or need more housing. And then Ginny Welsh, Councilmember Ginny Welsh, who's been trying to rezone a part of her district to build more housing, has had those efforts blocked by disapproval from planning. And she went ahead and deferred the rezoning while unleashing on the planning department in an epic speech that everybody should really go back and watch. Basically, her point was planning should not get to dictate how or where the city builds housing.
Well, and not just that they shouldn't be able to, but the law says they are not able to. Like, planning does not have the authority to dictate how, when, where housing gets built. Zoning and land use, those decisions are the sole purview of the local legislative body, which is, in our case, the Metro Council. So Councilmember Welsh vowed to bring her proposal back with or without planning, and really put them on notice that she has her eye on them. And
you don't want Ginny to have her eye on you.
Not satisfied. No.
If y'all want to read the full text of her speech, Nicole has actually re-skeeted it over on Blue Sky at Startles Easily is her handle there, as everywhere else. And then there was one other big moment on Tuesday that I know you want to get into, Nicole. We've talked about it on the show before. These military exercises that the U.S. military wanted to hold at the city's former old folks' home in Bordeaux starting May 19th. What happened there?
So this is in Councilmember Joy Smith Kimbrough's district, District 1, which, as you all may know, it's in North Nashville. They get basically all of the bad things that the rest of the city doesn't want to have to deal with. They get the dump. They get military training exercises.
The police shooting range.
Yes, all of these things that contribute to a decreased quality of life for the residents there, many of whom are elderly and have lived there for decades. And so Councilmember Kimbrough invoked a rarely invoked rule of procedure for the council by requesting a deferral on the floor of the council. And essentially that allowed her to unilaterally defer this proposal for one meeting because it is a resolution that only affects Councilmember Kimbrough's district.
And by deferring it one meeting, she's effectively pushed approval for it past when these exercises were going to take place, correct?
Correct. And that prompted outrage from council members like John Rutherford, who himself is a veteran, and Tanya Hancock, who is her spouse, is part of the military. And they started making these super convoluted, very cutesy arguments about why this actually doesn't only affect one district. Councilmember Hancock said, well, this is an agreement with the United States of America. So when you think about it, that actually affects everybody. And then Councilmember Rutherford was like, well, also, there are going to be helicopters flying, and those helicopters might fly over other districts. So when you think about it, this is actually a countywide issue. So we should all get a say on whether or not this goes forward. Council Director Margaret Darby very calmly and gingerly informed the council members that the resolution, the agreement, pertains to one building in one district. So this rule applies. But Councilmember Rutherford was not satisfied with that, so he challenged the vice mayor's ruling. Pandemonium ensued, but he lost. Everyone was like, wait, this is a council rule. You're going to want to have this rule if they're trying to do something to your district. So let's not set the precedent of throwing our council rules out the window because we don't like what's happening with one particular piece of legislation.
You use this as an opportunity to say that councilmanic courtesy is officially dead. Why?
Yeah, so I've been sort of on this councilmanic courtesy beat for a while, and we've seen it more and more with rezonings where council members from other districts are no longer deferring to the district council member who is supposed to know their district the best. And so typically, your colleagues will say, okay, well, we trust your judgment on this. This was another instance where a council member from way across the city says, well, actually, I don't trust your judgment about what's best for your district and your constituents. So I'm really going to fight to overrule you. And I think that's just sort of emblematic of this idea that councilmanic courtesy is hanging on by a thread at this point.
Pandemonium. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria. And then we've got one more bombshell from this week. Marie, this goes back to something that we've been talking about almost since this podcast began.
That's true. So the MNPD whistleblower, Lieutenant Garrett Davidson, has been arrested on 2 criminal indictments accusing him of illegally accessing and taking internal files and other documents. According to the Nashville Banner, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation acted on the request of Nashville DA Glenn Funk. Davidson is accused of using his position to gain access to restricted areas and taking multiple criminal case files and other documents he was not authorized to retain. He's also charged with 6 counts of official misconduct related to the Covenant school shooting, from which he also allegedly leaked documents.
Davidson's attorneys called the arrest, quote, a transparent attempt to discredit and silence a whistleblower who exposed serious misconduct within the Metro Nashville Police Department.
It's hard to know what to make of all this, but I will say it's very convenient for the police department that Davidson was allegedly involved in this misconduct. I will also note that the mayor commissioned an independent investigation over a year ago at this point into that 63-page complaint that you all may remember. We have had no meaningful updates on the status of that investigation.
Except that the law office of the investigators has been raided by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations.
And I would assume at this point that that raid was related to the allegations of Davidson's misconduct.
And it's also probably connected to the fact that back in April, a Nashville grand jury had called on the district attorney's office to investigate the Metro Nashville Police Department surrounding a number of these issues, including the sexual misconduct that was reported in Lieutenant Davidson's report.
It's convenient.
All right. Is that enough heavy stuff for 1 week?
Yes.
Again,
please,
y'all, we are not
Lord.
even coming close to hitting everything that has happened with these ICE operations from last weekend. We really do encourage you to go read stories from our friends at the Nashville Banner.
And the Nashville Scene is also doing continuing coverage of this.
Follow the Remix on Instagram. Talk to your neighbors about how they're feeling. Watch these council meetings on YouTube. It's important because what has happened now is really going to set us on a path for whatever happens next. So I heard a number of people say, I never thought it would happen here. And it did. Now what?
This Mother's Day, if you're fortunate enough to have a great mom in your life, do not forget to call her like I did last year. To make it up to my mom this year, I am showing up with an Aura digital frame fully loaded with adorable photos of, well, me. I picked out the most ridiculous photos I could find, like baby me eating a houseplant or that awkward senior pic where I'm hugging a fence for some reason. After we have a good laugh, I'll show my mom how easy it is to swap out the pictures so she can add in shots of her grandkids too. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. I know my mom will love it, and no matter who you give it to, they will too. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Now it's time for...
Dun-dun, dun-dun, good news!
The latest Vanderbilt poll paints a hopeful picture for Tennessee, especially Nashville. I know. Can you hear the chimes? Highlighting a surprising level of unity across party lines on several critical issues. Did you know that over 90% of Tennesseans oppose cuts to Social Security, Medicare, veterans' health care? Even MAGA Republicans, typically viewed as the most conservative, overwhelmingly support protecting these programs. Additionally, 85% of voters find the cost of living too high. Coincidentally, 89% support reducing Tennessee's grocery tax, which is one of the few remaining in the country.
Hello to Representative Afton Bain, who's been a huge advocate for reducing this and brought a bill that did not make it even to the floor in session this year. So obviously we've all got to ask ourselves, if 89% of people in this state support this, why aren't our elected officials, our Republican elected officials, doing anything about that?
I like to hear that we all have common ground, and I would hope that people agree with and value supporting veterans, Social Security, and acknowledging the financial challenges we all face.
Yeah.
Here.
And now, 3 childless pet ladies will talk about Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
We all have
Yes.
them. Some people like theirs. Some people don't have one anymore. Some people have chosen family. But anyway, I just wanted to shout out. Mother's Day is fraught, y'all. It's fraught.
It's fraught.
I wanted to
Sensitive
shout out our
topic.
contributor, Margaret Littman, for her delightful article in the Nashville Scene about options for Mother's Day tea times.
11 options, Whitney. 11.
I did not know. And I'm sure that is not all of them.
And these are not golf tea times, by the way. That would be more appropriate for Father's Day.
That's correct.
But
These are
we're talking
finger
like high
sandwiches. Yeah, high tea.
Yes.
High tea.
Yes.
My favorite one, and Margaret, really, we love you. We are not making fun of you. We're making fun of tea time. My favorite one was, there's one of the categories is for the mom who likes efficiency. The Southern Tea Room in the factory at Franklin offers a 75-minute tea with all the fancy china, handkerchiefs, and attention to detail of other tea rooms, but at a less leisurely pace. Y'all, 75 minutes is a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah. To sip tea.
That's a pretty leisurely pace.
But anyway,
We're grading on a curve here.
we are. Please, somebody write us Nashville@citycast.fm and tell us the longest tea service you've ever attended, I guess. I don't know. But I love that article. Everybody go check it out in the Scene, where you'll also find Nicole's column on everything that happened at council this week. Also want to remind everybody, Steeplechase is Saturday in Percy
Nicole,
Warner Park.
get your hat ready.
I won't be there, but I did go somewhere last weekend.
Ooh, shout it out.
I went to the Amqui Station Farmers Market because I have recently moved to Madison, and I live just over a mile from where the Farmers Market is located. It happens every Sunday from now until like September, October, I believe. So I was like, okay, well, that's not far. So I walked there.
Ooh.
I was choosing how I moved. There were not sidewalks the whole way, so it was a little dicey on Neely's Bend. But I got there. I made it in one piece. The weather was atrocious. It was real nasty outside. And I was like, oh no, I do not have it in me to walk back home. So then I was like, what if I took the bus? Y'all, I took the bus by myself for the first time in my entire life. And let me just tell you, it was lovely.
Aw.
I just have to shout out WeGo. Like, it's pretty cool, y'all. And it cost me $2.
And you just used the app?
Yes, I did use
You
the app.
downloaded it before you got on, and then boop, 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 boop.
I did indeed. The WeGo app.
Look at
That's
that.
outstanding. And a reminder that for those of you who liked our Bike Lanes episode on Wednesday, if you become a Walk Bike Nash member, you can get an unlimited annual bus pass for $25.
I'm considering it.
That is good news. Nicole took the bus and liked it. Maybe that should be our challenge to everybody for this weekend, whether you're going to high tea or you're going to the Savannah, or you're going to Steeplechase. Don't take the bus to Steeplechase. You would get looked askance at if you
Please
showed
take the
up.
bus to Steeplechase.
Can you imagine? You can also take the bus to the Savannah Bananas, who will be at Nice on Saturday. You'll want to avoid the traffic in that area. Anyway, the start time for that game is 6:30. I'm pretty sure it's sold out. People really like this. And according to our producer, Daniel Sumstein, it's great for moms because all the players are hot.
Yeah.
So there you
So,
go.
hey, Mother's Day.
I know.
Bring them out to see some bananas.
Savannah Bananas. Ew. Wait, you know what? I just put a connection together in my mind on that, and I'm going to have to just sit quietly.
No.
Last but not least,
Fridays by the River is back, and it will not be rained out.
it will not.
It will absolutely not. We will be there.
might
Come
be.
join us. CityCast Nashville, 3 to 8 p.m. in Shelby Park. Americana music from the Carmonas. Food trucks, Bad Luck Burger Club, Mag Mile Pizza, and the Mac Shack, Lady Dogs, and King of Pops. I love it. I always get my burger.
This one's not going to get canceled. Come say
It
hi.
will not. Please do. It's so fun and great beer. Fun hang.
We've only got 2 more shots left. Nicole, can we entice you?
You could take the bus.
You can take the bus, Nicole, from Madison to Shelby Park.
Well, we'll see. You never know.
That's
my
the
gosh.
first time we've gotten a "we'll see" out of her.
I know. I want to hang with her in person.
We all need to get together and hug is what we need to do. It's been rough.
That's true. But we
Yeah.
got through it, y'all.
Everybody needs a hug.
Well, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson. Our executive producer is Whitney Pastorak. Our producer is Daniel Sumstein. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury, and our theme music is by Prof Jenkins, with additional music by Sven Lenval, DM, James, and the Rag Hat Band from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!